Then Jesus said to them, "Very truly I tell you, it was not Moses who gave you the bread from heaven, but it is my Father who gives you the true bread from heaven. For the bread of God is that which comes down from heaven and gives life to the world." They said to him, "Sir, give us this bread always." Jesus said to them, "I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never be hungry, and whoever believes in me will never be thirsty." The Gospel of the Lord. Please, let's be seated. Our Gospel reading is from John chapter 6. All through this week, we are going to be reading from John chapter 6. And John chapter 6 talks about bread from heaven. It's called the Bread of Life discourse. Today, in today's text, the verse 30, after Jesus had fed 5,000 people with 5 loaves, the people started following Jesus. And they wanted him to do like as they taught, like Moses did in the book of Exodus when they were coming from Egypt to the promised land. Remember, manna fell from heaven. And for 40 years, they were eating for free. They didn't have to farm. They didn't have to do any work. And so when Jesus could say a blessing over 5 loaves that will feed over 5,000 people, they said, "Look, why do we have to go to the farm? Let's follow Jesus and let him do for us every day so that we will be enjoying free food." And they thought Jesus was like Moses. Now, Moses, remember, was their leader when manna came down from heaven. And so Jesus reminded them that it was not Moses that fed them from heaven. Moses didn't have the power to rain down manna from heaven. And so Jesus says, it is God the Father who sent down bread from heaven. But that bread, that manna, was perishable. It didn't last. It was just for physical hunger. And so Jesus tells them that if you really, really want to enjoy your life spiritually, not physically, he says if you really want to enjoy spiritual life, that is joy. He's talking about joy, not happiness. Because physical bread, physical food will give us happiness. It will satisfy our physical hunger. But it says the lasting joy, the lasting happiness, if you really want to have it, he says, you need the true bread that came down from heaven, the true bread. And he says, he, Jesus, is that true bread. And if you want to have joy, he says, what you need is Jesus. Jesus is the bread of life. Jesus is the only one who can give eternal life. And so he says here, Jesus said to them, I am the bread of life. Now we're talking about life. The bread of life. If you want to have your life joyfully, he says you can eat, you can drink physical food. He says, but it's not going to give you real life. And so he says, whoever comes to me will never be hungry. You know, if we ate lunch, at supper we'll be hungry again. If we drank water, we will be thirsty again. But he says, if you want to have the ever continuous satisfaction, what you need is Jesus. And he says, the bread that I will give is the bread of life. He is that bread that came down from heaven, and it gives life to the world. That's why we do what we do. That's why we go to church. So that we can have that bread of life that is needed. You know, church, we say today, is the only place now where we can observe 5 minutes of silence. There's no other place you can go where you can have that silence. All of us, we get into our vehicles, we start the music. We're walking on the street, we have the cell phone. Something has to be happening. Even though there are still some people that struggle with shutting the cell phone down. But Jesus Christ says, if you come, he said, whoever comes to me, you see, that is the key there. He says, if you come to me, and you can be quiet and let Jesus talk to you, he says you will have joy, you have your life back. That's why we do what we do. And I want to encourage all of us to find time, even if it's just 5 minutes. Just connect with Jesus. Just connect with him. And he says, whoever comes to me will never be hungry again and will never be thirsty again. That's the spiritual meaning of what we're doing as church. Coming to Jesus always.